All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to do an introduction real quick. I'm Dr. Jones. I am an orthopedic surgeon. I do pediatric orthopedics at Dayton Children's in Dayton, Ohio. And we have Jamil here. Jamil, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Jamil Kendall. I'm a current PGY3 at Oregon Health and Science University in Portland, Oregon.
Jamil and we are members on we are part of the membership committee for the J.R. Gladden Society, and we've been charged with the task of reaching out to the membership through these video chats, getting to know each other, so that our membership society can better know the needs of our members. And also we would like our members to know about each other. Hopefully we can get to know each other through these videos and maybe combine our resources, our interests, and just collectively be stronger together. So if there's any members out there who are watching these videos who would like to share their story, tell us what your interests are, passions, please contact us at info@gladdensociety.org. And please do keep up with these videos. Check them out. We have more videos on our YouTube page at the Gladden Society. If you search YouTube, the Gladden Society, you can find more of these videos. All right, Jamil, why don't you introduce our guest today?
All right, so I'm happy to have with us as our first of this interview series, Dr. Tanya Dixon. Dr. Dixon did her undergraduate studies at the University of Oregon, go Ducks, then did her medical school at Meharry down in Nashville, went to residency at University of Cincinnati for orthopedic surgery, followed by a fellowship in foot and ankle surgery at Massachusetts General Hospital. In that time, she also completed an MPH, an epidemiology master's at Emory down in Atlanta. Dr. Dixon is now back at the University of Cincinnati as a foot and ankle attending. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Dixon. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I feel honored to be the first.
Yes. Proximity has its perks, huh?
Right, right.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm in Dayton, Dr. Dixon's in Cincinnati, and so when starting these, I kind of reached out to who I know and who's close.
Makes sense. I would do the same.
Yeah.
So a little bit about me. I knew I wanted to do medicine when I was a kid. I remember sitting in my grandmother's arms going over anatomy books. So I think she was the first one to introduce me to medicine. So I thank her for that. Originally in high school, I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon, but it was, I took a college level anatomy class with Mrs. Zavan. It's amazing, those teachers who you remember that make an imprint on you. But she was the one who introduced me to the musculoskeletal system. I think we did the nervous system first and then MSK, and I loved MSK, much more. So that kind of put a little bug in my ear about orthopedics.
This was in medical school, or was this in college?
This was in high school.
Oh, high school.
High school. I knew I wanted to do surgery. I'm a very hands-on person, would get together with my uncle and do like various hodgepodge projects. Like it was a side business after work. We would go to, little odd jobs and do whatever was needed. And I loved it. So I thank him for, allowing me to realize I liked working with my hands. So I went through undergrad, knew I was going to do medicine, but I wasn't ready for the rigors of medical school. So that's when I went to Emory to get my master's in public health. Worked a few years at a bioterrorism center. This was right after 9/11. And so bioterrorism was a hot topic. So I ran one of the centers there. Just wasn't what I wanted to do with life. I knew medicine was always in the background. So decided to finally apply to medical school, and thankfully got accepted. Meharry was my one acceptance. Everything else was waitlisted. And if you guys know, HBCUs, you kind of start early. So you start medical school in June. So I didn't have a chance to come off any wait lists. It was just, all right, this is what we're doing. So my husband and I moved to Nashville and hit the ground running. And that was when I met Dr. Bonnie Simpson Mason. She came to one of our anatomy lectures and introduced us to orthopedics, which of course I was immediately attracted to. She had a bioskills lab that we did, and I was hooked. And this was in the early days of Nth Dimensions. So I applied for her summer internship program, and thankfully was accepted. And I got to spend 8 weeks with Dr. Mary O'Connor down in Jacksonville, Florida, and loved it. She was one who was very a good cheerleader, good mentor to have, definitely strong orthopedic surgeon. She was running she was the chair there at the time. And so it was nice to see a woman in that role. So I did that, came back, of course, kept an open mind throughout medical school, but ortho was what I liked. And of course, you do your away rotation. So I ended up rotating at University of Cincinnati because one of our former Meharry grads was a resident there. And I remember him coming down to Meharry saying, come to UC, it's great. I was like, all right. So I went, and it was my last rotation and my favorite rotation as a medical student. And the stars aligned. They liked me. I liked them. I matched there. And moved to Cincinnati. How I picked foot and ankle. So I actually came into residency going, I'm not doing spine, sports, or foot and ankle.
Funny how things change.
I was thinking, I was just diabetic foot. That was all that was ingrained in my mind for foot and ankle was diabetic foot. And it was my first rotation as a PGY2, and the attendings on the service are actually very personable like me, very easygoing, mellow personalities, and I loved it. I realized it was not all this diabetic foot and ankle.
It still is. It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
And the one that I was matched with, because he did 5 weeks of foot and ankle and 5 weeks of hand, he was one who didn't really like it, so he kind of carved it out of his practice. His partner took care of that, and so being introduced to it early, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. The variety of surgeries that we do. You're taking care of hindfoot, midfoot, forefoot. Of course, I think every foot and ankle surgeon. Right.
No foot.
Every foot and ankle surgeon doesn't like the forefoot. I'll just lay it out there. But it was just interesting to see, and when you look at the OR schedule, it's a variety. My week to week is so different, and that's what I loved about it. And then I liked peds too, so I was contemplating between foot and ankle and peds. So I went back as a 4 and rotated on peds first, and I just didn't love it as much as I did the first go around. Sorry, Dr. Jones.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I started residency, peds was the one that I knew I was not going to be, a pediatric surgeon. Yeah. So
you just never know. I think you just go through this with an open mind, because you'll be surprised at what you fall in love with. So obviously applied to fellowship, matched at MGH, which one of our prior residents had gone to and just loved. And it was great. I had 3 attendings there. And to my luck, you don't appreciate this, but to my luck, I had 3 different faculty at different stages in their career. So one was early on practice, one was mid-career, and then one was later. So it was nice to see that variety of experience, and then, watching one go through ramping up his practice, and then one who, just had an overflow because, he was later in career, had established himself, to see how he managed that. So I got fortunate. You don't realize that when you're on the, other side of things, until you're in it. And I think the other thing that I realized was with fellowship, no one talks about this, but I liked that I had a co-fellow. You go from, UC having a residency of 25, I called them brothers and sisters because, I felt like they were my siblings, to 2. And so it was quite lonely. I don't think anybody really talks about that. So I think that is probably some good advice that I can impart to, those coming up behind me to think about. If you're a social person, you might want to go with a bigger fellowship. If you're one who's like, yeah, I can hit the ground running, I'm fine, then, a solo fellowship might be good for you. But that was one thing that I just didn't appreciate until I was going through it. I liked having someone that was with me to commiserate with.
That's important to do that, because when you're the fellow, you're like this, you're in this in-between zone where you don't quite fit in with just hanging out with the residents. You don't necessarily hang out or fit in with the attending. So that's an important point you make.
Yeah, it's an awkward zone, especially, and thankfully for me, is both my co-fellow and myself were married and had just had a child. So our daughters were both about 4 months old when we started fellowship. So we happened to be equal fields. And of course, we've probably hung out and got along more with our younger faculty member because he was right around our age, only a couple of years in practice and had a young family, whereas everybody else was, more advanced. So those are like a couple pearls when you're getting ready to apply for fellowship, some things to think about. If you're single, you can probably hang out with the residents easily. But it is what it is.
So
that's interesting. That's something I would have thought about at all, actually.
No, it wasn't anything on my radar until I was going through it. And so that was one of the things that I try and tell the 4th years that are with me on my rotation is like, hey, this is something to think about when you're going through this process. And I think they appreciate that aspect.
I took it for granted because I had 3. There were 3 fellows at Children's Hospital Cincinnati for the pediatric fellowship, and so I didn't actually think about it until you said that. That was really I was fortunate. But I think when I was going through my fellowship list, that was one of my priorities too, though. That but thinking back, I didn't even realize how fortunate that was. But I'm a very social person, so I need other people to kind of feed off of.
Yeah. Oh, here she comes.
Why don't you introduce us?
What's your name?
Morgan.
Morgan. How old are you, Morgan?
5. Awesome. Nice to meet you.
You say hi.
Hey,
Dr.
Morgan.
Joe,
Nice to meet
Dr.
you.
Kendall. Are you going to be a bone doctor like mommy? No. What are you going to be?
I'm gonna be a pet.
A veterinarian? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect segue into home family life.
It kind of is, right?
I know. I was listening to your story, and did you tell me like your grandma's anatomy books? Like, were you talking about what was your grandma?
So my grandmother actually wanted to be a nurse, and she grew up in Canada. It was something where you had to pay your own way, and family of 7 who went to work to support the family. She just wasn't able to do nursing school like she wanted. So she was always one interested in the human body. Oh my gosh, Morgan. And I don't remember what book it was, but it was just something where it had talked about a little bit of everything. I think it was like some physiology book, and it had pictures, and I was just ingrown, and looking at them. And funny enough, this one's kind of the same. So maybe I have another future medical person.
Early exposure. That's how you do it. Yeah. And then, when did you and your husband meet?
Oh, great question. So we met at college. We met at U of O. We got together our sophomore year and have pretty much been together ever since. So we've been married, it'll be 17 years this year. He's been a phenomenal husband, supporting me through this whole venture. I could have not asked for a better spouse. And we always knew we wanted to have a family, but it's just timing, right? I knew I wanted to do medicine, and then I was like, okay, medical school. No, that's not a good time. Ultimately, we got pregnant, I guess fourth year, and I had Morgan chief year. So my program was extremely supportive of having a family. It was actually me and Dr. Ramalingam, who is actually a pediatric orthopedic surgeon at Cincinnati Children's. She was under me. She had her child first, and then I followed a couple months behind us, and our program has always been so supportive of having a family. So another plug to the awesomeness of the University of Cincinnati. And so, this is our child. This is who I hang out with when I'm not at work, taking care of all the stuff that goes along with the job. Her and my husband are what I spend time doing. We like to do puzzles, Legos, watch movies. I'm Morgan.
And I like to play
Harry Potter on the Xbox. That's our latest activity that we do.
Very nice.
So, and then besides family, we love to travel. This last year and a half, or year, I should say, has been a struggle. Not being able to socialize. You don't realize going to meetings, even though they're conferences and they're educational, that social interaction and just going and getting away from the nitty gritty of clinical medicine, you miss that. So I can't wait till we get back to more of the
I totally agree. Yeah, these virtual conferences just aren't cutting it for me.
No. And I'm hoping AOFAS meeting is in Victoria or Vancouver, British Columbia this year. And so I'm like, please let this be an in-person because I really want to go to BC.
Yeah, nice.
It seems like with the vaccines, they're now saying we don't have to quarantine anymore after exposures, and so I think things are heading in the right direction. Fingers crossed.
Optimistic, and that meeting's not till September, so I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
The AAOS is also at the end. I think that one is down in Texas here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that one goes off, and I'm pretty optimistic about that one.
Yeah, that's like towards the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Anything else outside of work that you are passionate about, or you'd like to share with any of the other members?
I think I spend most of my time between, family, but then resident and medical student education.
Yeah.
That's probably
you're in an academic setting, so that's a different, or that's a unique work environment because it's not just clinical, it's also teaching. You may also have some other requirements. So tell us about that.
So obviously, with the resident education, I feel like that just kind of comes in nature. But what I'm the clerkship director for ortho. And so sitting in on the medical student curriculum committee meetings, navigating our medical students for the match process. So yesterday I had 4 or 5 Zoom meetings talking with the medical students about their rank lists. So, people don't think about that, but that's a time-consuming aspect of the job, which I love. I mean, I didn't realize how much I enjoyed that until you're kind of in that setting. And then obviously in academic setting, there's the research, but that's not probably my biggest passion in life. There's some things where I will, oh yeah, this is interesting, let's do this. And I actually thought of a question yesterday, but I think education is probably more of my passion than anything else. I'm even considering going back and getting maybe a master's in education, so that I can be a more effective teacher, more effective educator.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Did the teaching aspect of the academic setting play any role in your wanting to be at a place like Cincinnati?
It did, but you know what? I'll be honest. I think I came back to academics more to be a presence. So as an African-American woman, I wanted the medical students to have a face of an orthopedic surgeon, that they could do it. I contemplated going into private practice, but I realized they were not going to have that exposure to me as easily. And so ultimately I chose academics. It wasn't until I was in fellowship and away from UC that I realized I really wanted to do academic medicine. Because I was interviewing in town for some of the private practice opportunities as well as UC. And then when I took a step back and got away from it, I realized, no, academics was what I wanted. And then it's kind of just going from there. I think the one thing, what everybody freaks out, and this is some of the advice I want to give to people, and it's okay, is, all right, you work so hard to become an orthopedic surgeon, that's your goal. All right, I did my residency. Now I've done fellowship. Then it's, now what? Now I'm trying to figure out what are my next goals in life, because you're so focused on getting to those. You reach it, and you're like, okay, now what am I going to focus on? And I think now I'm starting to find my niche of education is my passion. I love mentoring the medical students, the residents, and being a go-to person for them for anything that may be going on in life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Very insightful, talking about that realization that now you've made that goal. What's next?
No one talks about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's the one nice thing, is finding a place where you're going to be pushed. So my chairman, he is easily, hey, Dixon, I think this would be great for you. And so I appreciate that, because you may not find yourself in that role, and all of a sudden they identify you as a great person. Then great. I like being pushed to that direction. It hasn't been announced, but they've asked me to be the interim director of surgery at Westchester Hospital. And it was because of the nursing staff, my general surgeon colleagues, and one of my partners who was like, oh, Dixon would be a great role for this. Not anything I envisioned, so I like that it's kind of an interim role. And then you kind of see if this is something that I like, being a part of that side of medicine. And then we'll take it from there. So a lot of things I think you just kind of stumble into because people find that you would be a great person for that role, and to kind of just keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Congrats. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, that's a lot of good information, a lot of good advice. I think you gave us some advice for the residents looking at going into fellowship, even early on in your career as an attending, thinking about what that next step is. So, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess then we can get to our final two questions. And so I do want to end all of these conversations prompting our member that we're conversing with about the role of the J.R. Gladden Society and their role in it. So if you could tell us what you would like to see coming out of the society, how can it support you or the efforts that you're trying to do?
I think, and I think I appreciated this year was, JRGOS was always the place at the meeting. It was always something you did at the academy meeting, and not a lot of action I felt afterwards, which, I mean, granted, it was a big thing to arrange that meeting. But what I appreciated the most was the talk that we gave with all the residents this year, sharing their experiences in residency, being a place to decompress. I think more of that is going to be huge because, the minorities in orthopedics is small. And we all have probably similar experiences. And so just being able to get together on Zoom calls, a couple of times a year is going to be a nice way to talk, to advise everybody, hey, this is what I'm going through. What do you recommend that I do? Or just a place to kind of share and, have people understand. Because I don't think everybody understands what it is we are going through, what it's like to leave that door and your role is no longer an orthopedic surgeon, you're just seen as the Black woman, Black man. That's different. People don't understand that pressure, that constant under the eye feeling that we're under, and it's exhausting.
So it sounds like the community nature of the organization.
Yeah, community, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just being that place where you can feel understood, and also, potentially vent in a safe space.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize how enlightening that was. And it was also, something that trying to be more, cognizant for the African American males in, our residency program right now. So, those are some of the things that I think is great. And then I think the membership, because I'm on the membership committee, the revamp of the website, having more stuff available about getting into practice, residency, fellowship applications. I think what we're doing is awesome to have a one-stop shop.
All right, thank you. And then the last question is, and I know you've already been involved in the organization, but how do you feel like you can contribute with J.R. Society?
I think being an advocate for it, trying to get, individuals to sign up for it. And it's a great, place to be a member, giving my time when I can, being on the membership committee, although I'm not as active as Dr. Brooks. Oh my gosh, kudos to him. I swear to God, I think that guy doesn't sleep because of all the stuff that he does, but continuing to be an active member, I think that's being available for, when I'm needed. Again, I'm not always good at recognizing, roles that I can fill. But if someone, says, hey, I think Dixon would be good for that, hey, I'm in it. So, it's not concrete, but you know, I'm always there to be a mentor. I'm always there, you know, to give my time if and when needed, reviewing, you know, our scientific committee, research proposals. You know, I'm a gal you can count on.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Dixon, for sharing your day and your experience with us. And Morgan, thank you for giving your time with us too.
Sorry about that, especially with the tongue, but it's
I love
a
it.
little comedy for you.
She's cute. Yeah, thank
A
you.
welcome addition.
Hey, it's my life.
Well,
But no, this has been great. I am happy for anybody to reach out to me. I'm available for any types of questions, whatever the organization or residents, medical students, even, you know, colleagues need. I'm here.
I appreciate that. So I hope I'm still getting all this recorded. I'm seeing I have some low bandwidth, but hopefully it hasn't messed up our recording. I want to remind our members that if you want to participate in one of these videos, please reach out to us, contact us at info@gladdensociety.org. And also, we'll send out some of these videos. We'll probably splice it down a few snippets, so the full videos should be up on YouTube channel. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Good day.
You guys have a good day. Stay safe.
Dr. Dixon, have a great day.